You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast, brought to you by NBA 2K23. It's winter time. The clocks have changed. It's dark early. It's dark all the time now. And all I'm going to be doing is staying inside the house and playing NBA 2K23. So make sure you hit the link in our description and get your copy of the game. Today's episode is a little bit different. Now, BJ Armstrong, my co-host, isn't actually here today because he's traveling. He's handling some business. Maybe we'll have some updates for you soon. So instead, I feel like I'm going to share some interviews with you guys. As you know, there was a little break in the podcast in the off season when I went out to Abu Dhabi. And if you follow me on Instagram or if you watch Sky Sports back here in the UK, you may have seen a few of the interviews I did. You know, guys like Shaquille O'Neal or Vince Carter, and you're going to hear all of them. But today, because BJ's not here, we got to stay repping for his hometown of Detroit. And who better than Detroit Pistons legend, none other than one of the best point guards of all time, himself, Mr. Isiah Thomas, the OG Isiah Thomas. If you don't know about Isiah, check him out on YouTube. That's the bad boy Pistons we're talking about. That's 2 NBA championships. That's a finals MVP. That's a 12-time All-Star. That's a 2-time All-Star game MVP. The list of accolades is endless. But I chopped it up with him. We spoke about a few different things, his championship predictions, the MVP conversation, how to improve your basketball IQ, and how to dominate as a smaller player, because not everyone can be a 6'6", 6'9", 7'2", 7'4" Victor Wembanyama kind of player. So I spoke to a legend at the point guard position about how to improve his game. And what's crazy to me is I've interviewed Isiah a few times, you know, on Zoom and that kind of thing during the pandemic. And I actually met him on the court before the game. The preseason game that was in Abu Dhabi for the Bucks and the Hawks. And that was pretty cool, just chopping up with him, finally getting to meet in person. But I actually met him in person once before, many, many years ago. I did a skills camp and he was the coach and he was helping me work on my crossover. So I don't know if he remembers that because that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago. But, you know, we chopped it up a little bit. And then the next day I had a chance to sit down and go one-on-one in an interview with him. But before the interview started, obviously I told him BJ sends his regards. And he said to me, "Why you guys ain't had me on the podcast yet?" He said, BJ knows I got the fire for him. So you might see Isiah on the show at some point soon if we can get it arranged. But for now, you guys are going to be able to check out a bit of my conversation with him from just a month ago over in Abu Dhabi. This is my interview with NBA legend Isiah Thomas. Enjoy. Mr. Isiah Thomas, what up, though? I believe that's the correct greeting. How are you doing, sir?
I am good, brother. How you doing?
I'm blessed. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
You know, we're here in Abu Dhabi for the Bucks, the Hawks, some great basketball on display. But it's that time of the year where everyone's asking the same question. Who's your pick for the championship this season?
You you always have to, give the defending champ their respect. So you always have to start with Golden State at the top. But then when you look at the field, right, the Clippers look really strong to me talent-wise. They got the coaching, they got the talent. If they can stay healthy, it's been a long time. I don't know if the Clippers have ever won a championship.
No.
But Kawhi could be in a position where he can lead, 2 winless franchises to championships. He did it with the Raptors. Now I got a chance to do it with the Clippers.
So who's your pick for the MVP as well?
That's interesting too. Because so many players now are coming back, and so many players missed last year because of their health. I have no idea. That's how good the league is right now.
It's crazy.
I mean, you just can't single out like one person and be like, okay, this is the guy, this is the team, because then you look right behind them and you go, well, what about that guy? Well, what about that guy? Well, you missed that guy, you missed that team. So the balance of the league is intact.
Well, speaking of MVPs, the last few have gone to bigs. 7-footers, Jokic has won 2, Giannis has been in the mix, Embiid's always just there and thereabouts, almost winning it. But as a smaller guard in the NBA, what's the keys to dominating in the league where it's dominated by bigs? Because we saw an era of small ball, but it looks like it's reverting back to an emphasis on bigs, especially with teams like the Timberwolves or the Cavaliers with 2 big men as well now.
Yeah.
So what's the emphasis on a player like yourself at a point guard position being able to dominate in and amongst all the giants on the court?
To be honest with you, being a small man in the game, and then, for a period of years you dominate, bigger guys. The only way you do that is, I hate to say this, but just through intelligence, because they have the physical advantage in terms of height, size, and weight. And the only way you can truly beat the bigger, person is if he makes a mistake. So you depend on that person to make a mistake. And when they make a mistake, then you can capitalize on it. But if the big guy comes to the game and he doesn't make mistakes, he's really smart, he's like Kareem, he's like Magic, he's like Bird, them guys, they didn't make mistakes, right? So that's why they were 3-time MVP, 2-time, and it's like, for smaller players to really take advantage of those bigger players, you got to depend on those bigger players to make a mistake, or you just got to be smarter than them to dominate.
Talking about the smarts and the basketball IQ side of things, my final question for you is, for any of our younger fans who are watching this show, what are the keys to improving that IQ side of basketball? Because there's a lot of emphasis on skills training and working on your handles, working on your shot, but really studying the game and the art of basketball. What's your keys for those young fans who are trying to improve their game?
You always have to study your opponent and figure out what he or she likes to do when you're playing against them, and make sure they don't do that. Force them to do the things that they don't like to do more often than the things they like to do. And if you can stop them from doing the things that they want to do, then chances are you'll win the basketball game or the contest. So most people look at it offensively. I come to the game with a defensive mind. I come to the arena thinking about how I'm going to stop you, not necessarily how I'm going to score on you, because I believe enough in my skills that I can score on you, but can I really stop you from scoring on me?
That's the key. It sounds a lot easier when an NBA legend, one of the greatest point guards of all time, says it. But Isiah, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy Abu Dhabi. We'll see you in Paris.
Absolutely. I'll be there in January.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
As always, guys, if you enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe to the show. If you're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating and a review because it helps us out a lot. I'm going to give you some more interviews whilst BJ is away, and then as soon as he's back home, we're back to regular programming. Don't worry, we got you. And if you want to talk more basketball in the meantime, make sure you hit the link in our description to join the Hoop Genius Podcast Discord server, where we have some of the great listeners of this show having great conversations every day in there. So make sure you get involved, make sure you stay locked in, and most importantly, make sure you get buckets.